Well, actually, that brings us to, you remember when the Americans came to Northern Ireland?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
That was in January 42, I think it was. I was born on 7th of December 32. 7th of December 1941 was when Pearl Harbour was bombed. I was celebrating my 9th birthday.
And did you hear about it on the radio?
I read about it too,
You read
and
about it?
and we heard it on the radio as well. And then it was on the Movieton News as well, to the cinema, when you went. They showed the actual bombing of it.
Did that have a big impact on people here?
Oh, it did indeed, yes. It also brought the Americans into the war as well too. And only for the Americans coming into the war, we probably wouldn't have won it. Yes, I remember people discussing it, yes, and the girls actually loved the Americans being here, but not so the young men.
And why was that?
Well, the Americans were stealing all their women,
Yeah.
you know, and it was an interesting thing too. Before the Yanks came, a fella and girl walking down the street used to link arm in arm. But when the Americans came, they adopted the one arm over the shoulder to the girl, and that was copied when the Yanks left. Instead of the girls linking the fella now, the Belfast man would drape his hand over the left shoulder of the girl, copying the Yanks, you know.
Isn't that interesting?
They adopted their method.
Yeah.
They must have thought it was successful for to lure the girls. So they adopted that method. There was no more linking arms going down the street.
No. And of course, having 5 sisters, you would have been very aware of the impact the Americans had on them.
Yes.
Yeah.
You see the sister who showed you there. She had 3 and 4 up every I would say about a dozen every week.
Yeah.
She worked with them, you see.
What was her name and what age was she?
She was Winnie. She was actually Margaret Winifred, but everybody just called her Winnie. Winnie had soldiers up every night. They were from Nebraska, New Orleans, Texas, Oklahoma, you name it. And she worked with them, you see,
In Langford Lodge.
Langford Lodge. She worked as an inspector. Now, an inspector of what, I couldn't tell you. I'm not too certain about that, so honestly. But she had 3 and 4 up every week, different soldiers.
And would they have come to your house to collect?
Came to the house, yes.
To collect her, or would they have come in and stayed in your
No,
house?
they go out with her too.
They'd go out.
And then they went on dates. She probably ended up in the Embassy Club and the Carlton Club in Fountain Street. Now the Embassy Club was a club of notoriety. Didn't bother her anyway, you know.
Yeah, so notorious in what way?
Well, it had the name, so don't ask me what went on in it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anyway.
And you knew that even when you were that age? You knew it wasn't a great place?
Yes, I knew it wasn't, that was the talk. You spoke in whispered tones in those days about the Embassy Club.
Yeah. So were your parents never having a word with her?
I would say they did.
You say
Yeah,
they did.
I would say they did, but out of earshot from me anyway, you know.
Yeah. And you were saying she had like a lot of different guys. She never got serious about.
Never got serious with any of them, no.
Yeah.
And one, I actually mentioned one of them bought it was called a pickup in those days, so it was a record player that plugged into the back of your own radio, and the sound of the record came through the speaker. Now that was some technology in those days.
Yeah, very fancy for them.
Very, very fancy for that period.
Yeah.
So that was good. And I also seen dozens of pairs of nylons in her drawer. Perfume soap, you know, a box of perfume soap, maybe with about 9 or 10 little bars of soap, perfume soap, and actually seeing a bottle of Chanel No. 5. I remember seeing that quite clearly in her drawer.
Yeah.
So
she was getting some nice gifts.
She was getting some nice gifts.
Yeah.